Good afternoon and welcome to the Milton Garden Path. It's a very new show put on by Milton Access TV and produced by the members of the Milton Garden Club. I'm the current president, and we hope that you will learn something today and enjoy the show. Our goal is to bring gardens to you, garden tips, horticulture information, problem-solving techniques, and just various things that could help you become better gardeners, improve on your skills, and take away some of the gray areas. So our very first episode will be going to the home of Carol Stalker. Many of you read Carol Stalker's articles in the Boston Globe on Sundays, and she's well known around town. She's received many awards and she's quite knowledgeable, so I hope you enjoy our visit with Carol. If you have a question or a problem in your garden that you would like answered, feel free to email at the following address, miltongardenpath@gmail.com, or find us on Facebook and submit a question there. If you know of a garden that's spectacular or even not spectacular, that you just have a problem and you'd like us to come visit, again, get in touch with us at miltongardenpath@gmail.com. So I hope you enjoy the show and you learn a little something, and you could have a new budding career. So thanks for popping in. Well, welcome to our very first show of the Milton Garden Path. We're here at the home of Carol Stalker, an award-winning writer for the Boston Globe, author of the Boston Globe Gardening Almanac, garden aficionado, expert of many things, nature, horticultural, and wildlife preservationist. So Carol, thank you for sitting with us today and bringing us through your lovely home, of your garden style. We can't wait to get in there and hear what you have going on. So can you tell me a little bit more of what we expect to see?
It's very exciting that you're starting this new show. So this is something, I guess you're going to go to people's gardens all over Milton, right?
There'll be many topics down the line. But yes, we'll see gardens, we'll have tips, we'll have information, but hopefully it'll be something where you can learn something and see something, and it'll be Milton.
Oh, that's terrific. I have a question and answer column that's in the Boston Globe address section on Sundays, and I've been writing I've been a staff reporter and garden writer for the Globe for over 30 years, and I've been working in this garden long enough during that time, so it's been the setting for a lot of shoots for the Globe home section and so forth. So it may look a little familiar, but I'd love to show you around.
Let's go take a look. And this is the book that Carol has authored. If you happen to see it on the shelf, it's a wonderful resource.
It's really nice in terms of it's got beautiful photography, all done by the people from the Globe, and some of my columns reprinted, and what to do every week.
Good. Let's go take a look.
Okay, we're going to see what we're doing this week.
Awesome.
So this is a house from the 1845. We went to, the county seat. My husband, Robert Muzzy, looked it up. And we bought it. We moved here in 1979, so that's how long we've been working on this garden. It started out as a farmhouse, so it's got a lot of farm kind of crops. It's got rhubarb, it's got an apple orchard, it's got a grape arbor from when this was a food growing original Milton country farm. Then it got bought by, Milton has like these different periods. First there was the Native Americans, then there were the original colonial farmers. Then the rich people came up and bought this land up in the Blue Hills and turned it into estates. So this then became the estate of H.P. Gallagher, who was the CEO of the chocolate company, Baker Chocolate. And then after 100 years, it got subdivided into little small plots, but they didn't build any new houses. So this really looks the way it's always looked. There's no additions. So anyway, this, when we bought the house, was just a lawn. And we made it, I was working for the Boston Globe and doing a story on front yard gardens, and with the help of Bina Pillsbury, who was a member of the Milton Garden Club, I turned it all into a front yard with no grass.
Excellent. Well, let's go look at your garden.
Okay.
So this is such a lovely garden, Carol.
Yes.
Can you tell me a
Thank
little
you.
bit about it? What style? What would you call this?
Well, this is a cottage, and this is a cottage garden. But what is a cottage garden? A cottage garden is an informal garden. You know, you have your estates or your mansions, and they have formal gardens where everything is symmetrical. And a cottage garden, which is more lowbrow, it goes with modest little houses like this, is something that's more of an informal jumble. And because it's an informal jumble, I can let the plants seed themselves around, and I don't have to put as much energy into trying to control where things are located. It's a jumble. So a lot of these plants planted themselves. We've got phlox here, and I always believe in having water because I'm gardening for wildlife. National Wildlife Federation's given Milton a lot of medallions for gardening for wildlife, and you have to have cover, food, and water. So I always have water features. It's a very hot time of year, so these are tough summer plants we're looking at. It's going to be much lusher in the fall. Giant dahlias, and this is a wonderful wildflower called Lobelia cardinalis, greatly loved by hummingbirds because it's red and it's tubular. And as the longer I garden, the more I'm growing native plants because that's what gets you the butterflies and the birds. They want native plants that produce food. And ideally they want caterpillars because that's what they feed their young. So I don't spray, it's all organic.
Do they like gypsy moth caterpillars?
You know, I think they have a problem with the winter moths because I asked about this. The winter moths are covered with hairs that they can't eat. So unfortunately they don't eat those. So,
Too bad.
So I do spray for like winter moths once a year because they would kill your trees otherwise.
So Carol, this is so lush and full. How long did it take you to get this effect?
It's not hard to be lush and full. It doesn't take very long at all. And then what happens is, I'd say it takes 3 years. They say about perennials, the first year they sleep, the second year they creep, the third year they leap. So this was all filled in 3 years. But then you start pulling things out and replacing them with other things.
And it's late August, and you still have quite a bit of color.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you can see Stilby is a good summer flower. And we got these are the old allium seed heads. We've got, this is hydrangeas, feverfew, catmint. Roses give you a lot of bang for the buck. If you keep cutting them back and deadheading them, they keep blooming. And zinnias. These are mallows that haven't opened yet. And then, as we said, phlox, hostas, and then you can see in the corner there we've got some lilies. I need to talk about those lilies. And black-eyed Susans and hollyhocks. So these are all summer flowers.
When does your garden start to flower? In what month?
Oh, probably March. I mean, I try to plant very early things and very late things, so I have as long a season as
That's amazing.
Yeah. So,
and I've noticed you have...
And this is not the best it looks. The best it looks is in June. This is kind of an off time of year, but August is tough. But there's still a lot of things that bloom in August, even when it's 95 degrees.
And you've supplemented with annuals, and that's another way to get color in your garden, especially this time of year.
Yes, I think I like perennials better though because annuals you need to water a lot, and they have very small roots, whereas the perennials are less maintenance.
So Carol, you mentioned that the Lobelia cardinale is a native plant that hummingbirds love.
Right, right.
And I see you've complemented the red color with that flower with the red color of the beautiful dahlias. Can you tell me anything else about those?
Well, these are not low maintenance. The cardinalis is a flower that needs a lot of water. And I've got it planted with another flower which needs a lot of water, which is astilbe, because this astilbe has colored leaves. And the dahlias need a lot of water too. So one thing I'm trying to do is group together the plants that need a lot of water instead of having them all spread out, so that I can put a sprinkler here and get them all at one time. And so that's part of my thinking there.
How big is your yard altogether?
It's an acre.
That's a lot to water.
Well, that's why I have areas where I put all the plants that don't need watering, and then I have areas where I put the plants that do need supplemental water. At least I try to do that, and that's a very good thing to do. Just take your thirsty plants and group them.
So looking at these and looking ahead, I see you have that little flower, that plant there that is loaded with buds that haven't opened yet. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
That is a very common plant called Sedum Autumn Joy, and it looks to me like broccoli. You can see it looks like broccoli, and it's very neat. And it has these red flowers in the fall, and then they kind of dry on the plant. They're everlastings. These are alliums. They dry on the plant too, and the astilbes dry on the plant too. You can see. These are the seed heads of astilbes that have gone by. So one thing I do is I leave the seed heads even after the flowers are done, and you have a little bit of architecture going on.
Very nice.
This is my lawn, and I'm very proud of it. Now, a lot of people might not be proud of this lawn, but why I like this lawn is that this is a natural lawn. I am not watering it because it doesn't need to be watered. It looks dead. It's not. These grasses go dormant when it's 90 degrees and there's no rain. So when you're watering your lawn, you're kind of keeping it artificially awake when it wants to go dormant. Lawns are meant to go dormant in the summer and then turn green again in the fall when the fall rains come. So if you think your lawn is dying, it's not really dying. It's just going to sleep. So what I water is I water this tree because I don't want it to die, and I water those flowers because I don't want them to die, and if I don't water them, they will die. But I don't water the lawn because it's not going to die. It doesn't need to be watered. And what makes me sad is when I see people's trees dying because they're watering the lawn instead of the trees. So water the trees, forget about the lawn.
So most people in their yards have many varieties of birds, and if you're like me, you have many, many sparrows. But when you come to the garden of Carol Stalker, it's hummingbird heaven. And just standing here, within a minute or two, you'll see them buzzing around our heads, buzzing around Carol's head, and even maybe visiting the bird feeder. What do you do to attract so many of these lovely little hummingbirds?
Oh, they're very appealing. Actually, my husband, Robert Muzzy, is the hummingbird whisperer.
Oh.
He knows all of them, and he can tell them apart, and he writes down the dates that they arrive every spring and the dates that they leave in the fall, and he looks forward to their return because, you know, they spend the winter in South America.
I didn't know that.
They migrate. And those little hummingbirds fly all the way across the Gulf of Mexico without stopping in one flight. Isn't that amazing? So they come back in the spring. And like a lot of gardeners, I've always been very interested in attracting hummingbirds. But what we found, the secret is a hummingbird feeder. My husband put up a hummingbird feeder, which is full of sugar water. And then we found that the male hummingbird would chase away the females, which seemed counterproductive. We don't know why he does it, so we put a second one in. Then we got two males, and they chased away the females, so then we put a third one in. I don't know why they do it. And now we have 4 different hummingbird feeders and 4 different females and 2 males, and the males are always patrolling. So we've put them on different sides of the house so that the males cannot see all the feeders. at the same time, and the females all go in and eat at the feeder where the male isn't, and then the male comes and finds them and they'll fly away. So
Not very nice.
no, they're very aggressive little creatures for their size, you know. So so the secret to a hummingbird is a hummingbird feeder, and we feed sugar water. If you put honey in, it would kill them, ironically.
So no honey.
And we change it twice a week, because you get all sorts of ants and things in there if you don't change it. So you don't wait till it gets to the bottom. You replace it twice a week. And, you know, it's very simple. Hummingbirds, hummingbird feeder.
Is there a ratio of sugar to water?
Yeah, you get instructions when you buy the feeder. And to tell you the truth, my husband's the one that puts the sugar water in. He's very, very religious about the timing of it. The other thing I would say is we always have a few hummingbird nests, and we get the babies. And the babies eat spiders and caterpillars. So you have to have an organic garden with a lot of insects. 'Cause these little tiny microscopic insects are what they feed the babies. The babies don't go for the sugar water until they're old enough to fly.
Is there a type of tree that you like to have that would provide nourishment for all those little caterpillars?
Well, the absolute best tree is oak trees. And I always feel bad when someone cuts down an oak tree because they're messy and they have acorns and leaves. They have 550 different kinds of caterpillars on every oak tree.
Wow.
The second best tree is the wild cherries, and I'm going to show you a wild cherry. And this is, I'm on the shade tree committee for the town of Milton, and we're talking about native trees that you can plant. We're putting together a list, we met last night, of native shade trees that you can plant in front of your house or have the DPW plant for you, that will attract birds. But nobody's going to plant a black cherry because it's really not very attractive. But it's great if you just, when it comes up in a corner of your property as a wild plant, don't weed it out. And that's where we get all our butterflies and our caterpillars and our birds from, are these wild cherry trees. So I'll show you what they look like when we
Awesome.
get to one.
Wonderful. You have a beautiful fountain here.
Well, you have to provide water. You know, this is got the stamp of approval of the National Wildlife Federation, and they say what you have to provide for birds and wildlife is water, cover, so they can have some place to raise their families, food, and so I do put in water features. This is a recyclable fountain. Birds love the sound of running water. So this recycles down here, and then it comes back up through a hole up here, and it's made in China, and it's ceramic, and it's plugged into the side of the house, so it's electric. It's got a little electric pump
I see.
inside.
Just sort of, so
Yeah.
it's easy to install.
Yeah, and then we bring it in the winter because it would crack otherwise. Yeah, there's the little electrical wire, which is insulated, and then when it gets to time of year in the fall when you're getting freezes, we carry it and put it in the basement, and then we bring it out in the spring.
So will something like that attract mosquitoes?
No,
for
because
nesting?
it's moving water.
Good to know.
If you have something that, like a bird bath that is not moving water, you should dump it like once a month, twice a month, just so it doesn't produce mosquitoes. But when it's 90 degrees, you don't have to worry because the water all evaporates anyway. You know, there are no mosquitoes this summer because we're 6 inches behind in terms of our rainfall.
They found my yard. They find me.
Oh, I tell you, we've had no mosquitoes at all because of the drought. They need water.
So Carol, I'm looking at this tree, and it doesn't look very green. Can you tell me why you keep this dead tree here?
Well, it died pretty recently. It probably died about a month ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's 100 years old. It's an apple tree. And I'm not in a hurry to take down dead trees, especially something like this, which is no risk. This is not going to fall on anybody. This is not going to fall on a house. It's not very tall, and it's very stable. And I'll leave it as long as I can because it provides food for the woodpeckers. This is going to be loaded with ants and all sorts of insects, and I'm kind of running an insect farm here. And I'm running an insect farm because that's the grocery store for the birds. No insects, no birds. So this is the woodpecker grocery store.
So that doesn't bug you?
You know, I think it has, you know,
the helicopter's going by.
Yeah.
That wasn't a big bug for the...
No, that was like a giant, you know, dragonfly.
But you have some life coming back. Well,
yeah, that's coming back for the roots. The roots are still alive. The roots are still alive. This is a very old apple orchard, and when we bought this house, the realtor said to us, these apple trees have about 2 years to go, and now it's 36 years later, and half of them are still alive. They live a long time. Some of these apple trees, you can put your arms right through a hole in the middle, and they're still alive and they're still producing apples.
I don't think I'll stick my arm in there.
No. So dead trees are wonderful for wildlife. And if you go in the woods, there are dead trees. Nobody's cutting down the dead trees in the woods. That's where so many of the birds and the animals are getting their food from. And so, so this is my nod to nature. I have a little motto, which is, you know, leave up the dead trees. And I want to show you something else which is interesting, which is, see these?
What are these? They're amazing.
This is an interesting story. A little bit. This is a lily called Black Beauty, and it is the only lily that you can grow that the red lily leaf beetles don't like the taste of. So you see, they're not on it, and I don't spray. But you know, the red lily leaf beetle, which came from China, is killing all our lilies. They don't like this one. So, oh look, there's a hummingbird there. So that I can grow this without having to spray it or anything.
That's amazing. Are they easy to find?
I get it from Van Engelen, but you can get, that's the first ones I bought, I think I got online from, Amazon.com or something like that. They're pretty, it's an heirloom lily. It's easy to find.
What was the name again?
Black Beauty.
Black Beauty
and
lily.
And you can see they put out a lot of flowers and they're very carefree. So this is a great tip. And I also want to show you this, which is this is a milkweed. And you know, the monarch butterflies are endangered, those beautiful orange butterflies. And if you want monarch butterflies, you have to grow milkweed. So there are 3 kinds of milkweeds, and I grow all of them. This is the swamp milkweed, and see how covered it is with wasps and bees and so forth, and pollinators. This is a fabulous native wildflower for pollinators. And then there's a couple of other kinds of milkweeds that I grow, including, well, the orange butterfly weed and the wild meadow milkweed. And incidentally, this little plant here, this pink plant, that's a reblooming lilac. So here we are in August, and this lilac is putting out new flowers. So
there's always something to see here, isn't there?
Well, you know, I like unusual and interesting plants. I used to just plant things that look pretty. Now everything has a mission. It's kind of like I used to buy clothes that look pretty. Now everything I buy, I want it to be wicking. I want it to be SPF 50. I want it to do stuff. And that's the way I feel about my plants. I want them to attract butterflies and birds, and I want them to be low maintenance, and I want them to feed the pollinators. I just don't want them to look pretty. Well, they got to be working.
I think you've been very successful with attracting the pollinators. How many butterflies have we counted here today? Hummingbirds, butterflies, bees, wasps.
And we got a lot of bird nests too.
I'm standing in front of what should be a beautifully blooming big blue mop-head hydrangea. But unfortunately, I'm standing in front of a lot of sticks. One of the most frequently asked questions that I receive in the gardening world is what happened to the hydrangeas this year? This type of hydrangea is a macrophylla, which means it blooms on old wood. So as you can see, there's a lot of wood here. But the problem with this year was we had a very mild winter, followed by a very severe cold snap in March. So all the buds froze off. I'm going to walk you over here to show you this beautiful plant with lots of green foliage, also with no flowers. So right now, today's date is July. You might not see this until August. However, the flowers for next year are forming right now on this stem. If you can look closely here in these little knobs, those are your flowers for next year. So if you trim those off, you won't have any blooms next year. So in the spring of next year, this stem will be the old wood, and that's the wood that's necessary to produce the blooms. And what we have this year, unfortunately, are these sticks with nothing on them. So I guess you'll just have to go to the flower market or maybe Nantucket, where they have a different climate, and find your blue hydrangeas. So that's the reason your hydrangeas didn't bloom this year. Well, Carol, thank you for showing us your antique home, your cottage garden, your hummingbird haven, your bird sanctuary, and all of your wonderful native healthy plants. And we hope that you visit us again, or that we can visit you again, so we see what's growing in the next month.
It's always different.
Super. And thank you all for tuning in. And we hope you enjoyed the show. You can look us up on Facebook at the following address. And if you have any questions that you'd like to be answered, if you have a problem in your garden, you have a pesky bug that's eating something, whatever you have a question with, send an email to miltongardenpath@gmail.com. So please tune in to miltongardenpath@gmail.com with your questions. And we hope to see you again soon. So thank you for tuning in.